let me ask you something before we begin. When was the last time you really thought about your eyes? Not your glasses, not the prescription you pick up at the counter, your actual eyes. For most of us, the honest answer is never, or at least not until something starts to go wrong. We think about our knees when they ache. We think about our hearts when the doctor mentions blood pressure. Yet the eyes, those quiet workers that carry us through every single day, we tend to take them for granted right up until the moment they start to fail us. I want to change that today, because in all my years of practicing medicine, one of the saddest things I saw again and again was a person who came in worried about their sight, only to learn that the trouble had been building quietly for years, long before they noticed a thing. And what breaks my heart about it is that so much of it could have been slowed or softened by something as simple and as ordinary as what sits on the dinner plate. The most common cause of serious vision loss in people over the age of 60 is a condition called macular degeneration. And here is the cruel part about it. It does not knock on the door before it walks in. There is no pain. There is no sudden warning bell. It settles in so slowly, so gently, that many folks lose the sharp centre of their sight before they ever think to be concerned. One day you simply notice that faces are a little harder to make out, that the words on the page swim a bit, that you are reaching for more light than you used to need. Then it has often been at work for a good long while. Now, I do not tell you this to frighten you. I tell you this because there is real hope. And it is the reason I sat down to talk with you today. What you put on your plate has more say over the health of your eyes than almost anything else within your control. Not costly supplements in fancy bottles, not expensive drops from the pharmacy. Plain, honest food that you can pick up at any grocery store in the country. And there are 3 foods in particular that most people over 60 simply do not eat enough of. Stay with me all the way to the end, because the third one surprises nearly everybody, and it is very likely the one you would least expect. Most folks guess wrong every time, but before I hand you those 3 foods, let me take a moment to tell you what is actually happening back there, because I have found that people take much better care of something once they understand how it works. It is a bit like your car. You drive it more gently once you know what is going on under the hood. At the very back of your eye, lining the inside like wallpaper, is a delicate layer called the retina. And right in the centre of that retina sits a tiny patch, no bigger than the head of a pin, called the macula. I want you to remember that word, the macula, because it is the hero and the victim of this whole story. That little patch is responsible for your sharp, straight-ahead, detailed vision. It is what lets you read a letter, thread a needle, recognise your granddaughter's face from across the room, tell one pill apart from another in your hand, or see the expression on a friend's face. The rest of your retina handles the edges, the movement, the sense that someone just walked into the room. But the fine detail, the precious centre of everything you look at, that all comes down to the macula. And that little patch is protected, day in and day out, by 2 special pigments. They have names that sound like something from a chemistry class, lutein and zeaxanthin, but I want you to think of them in a much simpler way. Picture them as the eye's own pair of built-in sunglasses. They gather in the centre of the macula and they soak up the harsh, high-energy blue light that pours in from the sun, from your television, from the screen of your telephone. They stand guard against the daily wear that would otherwise damage those delicate cells over the years. The denser and richer that little pool of pigment is, the better shielded your macula tends to be. Here is the catch, and it is a big one. Your body cannot make those 2 pigments on its own, not a drop of it. The only way to get lutein and zeaxanthin into your eyes is to eat them. And here is where the trouble creeps in for so many of us. As we get older, our appetites shrink, our meals get simpler, cooking for one or two feels like a bother, and slowly, without meaning to, we stop eating the very foods that carry these pigments. The tank runs low right at the time of life when we need it fullest. That is a gap worth closing. And the good news, the wonderful news, is that closing it is far simpler and far cheaper than you would ever think. Now, before I get to the foods themselves, we want to spend a moment on the warning signs, because catching this sort of thing early makes all the difference in the world. Please listen closely here. If you begin to notice that straight lines look a little wavy or bent, say the edge of a door frame, the line where the wall meets the ceiling, or the lines on a notepad, do not shrug it off. That waviness is one of the earliest and most important signals that something is changing in the macula. If you find that you need more and more light just to read the newspaper or your favourite book, if colours seem a touch duller or washed out than they used to, if there is a dim, blurry or empty smudge slowly creeping into the very centre of your vision while the edges stay clear. Any of these, my friend, is worth a trip to your eye doctor, and the sooner the better. Here is a simple little trick you can do at home. Cover one eye, look at a straight line or a door frame with the other, then switch and do the same. We so often use both eyes together that one can quietly slip while the other covers for it, and you never notice until it is quite far along. Check them one at a time, now and then. It takes 10 seconds and it costs you nothing. All right, you have been patient with me, and now let me give you those 3 foods. The first one will not shock you, yet I promise you are almost certainly not eating enough of it. Dark leafy greens. I am talking about spinach, kale, collard greens, Swiss chard, turnip greens, the deep green ones. If lutein and zeaxanthin are the eye's sunglasses, then dark leafy greens are the shop where you go to buy them. Cup for cup, there is simply nothing else on the grocery shelf that comes close. A good handful of cooked spinach a few times a week does more for the pigment in your macula than any pill I could name you. Now I can already hear some of you. Doctor, I am not going to sit and eat a plate of raw kale. I am not a rabbit. And I hear you, I truly do. So let me make it easy. You do not have to eat a salad every day. Wilt a handful of spinach into your scrambled eggs in the morning. It disappears and you hardly taste it. Stir a fistful into a soup or a stew right at the end of cooking. Blend a small handful into a fruit smoothie. The berries hide it completely. Chop some collards into your beans. Little bits, spread through the week, add up to a great deal. I had a patient, a lovely gentleman in his late 70s, who swore he hated greens, and all he did was start dropping a handful of spinach into his morning eggs. That was it. Just that one small habit held on to week after week, month after month. The second food is one that's been badly slandered for years, and I want to stand up for it today. Eggs. For a long time, folks were told to fear the egg, and above all, to fear the yolk. Well, the yolk, that golden middle everyone was told to throw away, happens to be one of the finest sources of eye-protecting pigment you can put in your body. And here is the clever part, the part that makes the egg something close to a small miracle for your eyes. The lutein and zeaxanthin in an egg yolk come wrapped up together with a little bit of natural fat. And as you will hear me say again in a moment, these pigments need fat to be absorbed properly. So the egg almost delivers itself. It brings its own escort. Study after study has found that the pigment from eggs is taken up by the body especially well. For most healthy folks, an egg a day, or certainly a few a week, is a perfectly sensible and nourishing thing. You know, the worry about cholesterol runs deep. It was drummed into all of us. For most people, the modern thinking is far gentler on the egg than it once was. But I will always say this, and I mean it. If your own doctor has looked at your numbers and given you specific guidance about eggs or cholesterol, you follow their advice over anything you hear from me in a video. They know your body and your history. I'm only here to open the door and get you thinking. And now, the third food, the one that catches nearly everybody off guard. Let me start by telling you what it is not. It is not carrots. I know. We're all raised on the story, weren't we, that carrots give you the eyes of a hawk. There is a sweet bit of history there. It came out of wartime, a clever tale spread to explain how pilots could see so well in the dark. Now, do not misunderstand me. Carrots are good for you. They carry beta-carotene, which your body turns into vitamin A, and vitamin A does matter for the eyes. But carrots are not the star of this show, not by a long way. They have been getting all the credit for decades while the real hero sat quietly on the side. The third food is fatty fish: salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring, trout. And here is exactly why it earns its place at the very top. That precious macula I told you about, that tiny patch of sharp vision, is built in large part out of a special fat, an omega-3 fat called DHA. It is one of the main building blocks of the tissue itself. When you feed your body a steady supply of that fat, you are handing your eyes the very raw material they are made from. And there is more. These same omega-3 fats help calm the low, slow, smouldering inflammation that quietly wears the retina down over the years. So fatty fish works two ways at once. It helps build and it helps protect. And here is the part I love the most. It need not be some expensive fillet of fresh salmon. A humble tin of sardines, the kind that costs you next to nothing, is one of the finest gifts you can give your eyesight. 2 or 3 times a week, a little fatty fish. Sardines on toast, salmon baked with a squeeze of lemon, mackerel stirred through a bit of pasta. Now, if you truly cannot stand fish, do not despair. There are other ways to get those omega-3 fats. Walnuts and ground flaxseed and chia carry a plant form of them, and they are worth adding. But if you can make friends with a tin of sardines, your eyes will thank you for years to come. So there are your 3. Dark leafy greens, eggs and fatty fish. Those are the pillars. But let me quickly introduce you to a few of their good friends, the supporting cast. Because a healthy eye likes variety on the plate, think of colourful vegetables, the bright orange and yellow ones. Orange and yellow bell peppers, sweet corn, pumpkin, squash. They carry their own helping of those protective pigments, and corn in particular is a surprisingly good little source of zeaxanthin. Then there is vitamin C, the kind you find in oranges, in lemons, in strawberries and bell peppers, which helps keep the tiny blood vessels that feed your eyes strong and healthy. There is vitamin E, which you get from almonds, sunflower seeds, and a good olive oil, working as another gentle guard against wear. And do not forget zinc, a mineral your retina leans on heavily, which you will find in beans and lentils, in pumpkin seeds, in a bit of lean meat, and in shellfish like oysters. A plate that carries a rainbow of colours, week in and week out, is quietly doing your eyes a great deal of good. Now let me give you that one small trick I promised you, because it can nearly double what your body actually takes from all this good food. These eye-protecting pigments, lutein and zeaxanthin, along with the vitamins A and E, are what we call fat-soluble. That is a fancy way of saying they need a little fat right there alongside them in order to be absorbed. Eat a plate of plain steamed greens with nothing on it, and a good deal of the goodness passes right on through you. But drizzle a little olive oil over those greens, or cook them up with your eggs, or set them beside your fish, and suddenly your body soaks up far, far more of it. That one habit, a splash of good fat with your vegetables, can make an enormous difference over the years. And let me put another old worry to rest while I am here. A little gentle cooking does not destroy these pigments. In fact, it can help release them from the plant so your body reaches them more easily. So you do not need to eat everything cold and raw. Lightly cooked with a bit of good fat is just about perfect. While we are adding all these good things in, it is only fair that I mention a couple of things worth easing back on, because it works both ways. Heavily fried foods and a great deal of sugar and white refined starch seem to feed the very inflammation we are working so hard to quiet down. I am not asking you to be a saint about it. I am not going to stand here and tell a person in their 70s to give up every last thing they enjoy. Life is far too short for that. But if you can tip the balance, just tip it, a little more of the green and the fish and the colour, a little less of the fried and the sweet and the packaged, your eyes and truly your whole body will be the better for it. And since your eyes are part of the rest of you, let me leave you with a few small extras that cost nothing. When the sun is bright, wear a pair of sunglasses that block the ultraviolet light and a hat with a brim if you have one to spare your eyes that harsh glare. If you still smoke, and I say this as gently as I know how, please talk to someone about stopping, because smoking is one of the very hardest things on the aging eye. It starves those delicate vessels. And keep an eye on your blood pressure and your blood sugar, because what is good for your heart and your circulation turns out to be good for the fine plumbing inside your eyes as well. It is all one body, connected from head to toe. Let me gather it all together for you. It's nice and simple, so you can carry it out of here and actually use it. A few times a week, get some dark leafy greens onto your plate and put a little olive oil or an egg with them. Have an egg in the morning if your doctor is happy for you to. 2 or 3 times a week, reach for fatty fish, and yes, the humble tin of sardines counts every bit as much as the fancy fillet. Fill in around the edges with colourful vegetables, a bit of citrus, a small handful of nuts and seeds. Ease back just a touch on the fried and the sugary. That is the whole of it. There is nothing complicated here, nothing you need a special store or a fat wallet for. It is ordinary food eaten with a little bit of thought and your eyes in mind. And none of this is about eating like a rabbit or giving up every food you love. It is about being a touch more thoughtful, a few times a week. Your sight is one of the great quiet gifts of a long life. The chance to see your grandchildren's faces light up, to read a good book in your favourite chair on a slow afternoon, to watch the colour change in the sky of an evening, to catch the small everyday beauty that is all around us. It is worth protecting, and the protecting, more than most people ever realise, begins right there on your plate, 3 simple times a week. If this was helpful to you, do me one small kindness. Share it with someone you love who is getting on in years, a husband or a wife, a brother or a sister, an old friend. It may be the little nudge that protects their sight for the years to come. And if you would like more simple, honest talk about staying strong and well as we age, no fear, no fuss, just plain sense, then come along and join us here. I would be truly glad to have you. I am Dr. Bennett. You take good care of yourself now and take good care of those precious eyes. I will see you again very soon.